Good afternoon to the entire broker community. This is Simeon Papuilius with Brokers Playbook. I have an amazing guest with an amazing story joining me today, Mr. Darren Voros. Welcome to Brokers Playbook, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you here for sure. And other than your amazing smile and devilish good looks, you pack a mean punch in business, and you've been making an impact to investors in the GTA and nationally, I suppose, for quite some time. So I found it. I found it to be almost part of my duty if I'm going to be doing this thing in trying to bring value to the real estate, mortgage, and investor community at the end of the day to share your story and your methodologies because I do feel a lot of people can benefit from your recipes per se and from your outlook and mindset. And those are kind of the things I wanted to speak about with you today, my man.
Yeah, three of my favorite subjects for sure.
I would like for you to start off. It's always weird when somebody else talks about you, or I find that odd personally. I would like you to give me a synopsis of who you believe you are, who you've become at this point. What are your biggest strengths? What should people know about you, brother?
Well, I think that as many people, I didn't start off in real estate. I think that's I kind of landed here as my second career. I would say started in the arts. Actually, I was in theater, musical theater, professionally for 15 years. And one of the things that I was doing on the side was real estate, which seemed really odd at the time for many people. They were like, what's this, why are you doing construction, and why are you working these extra hours and buying properties and, all these other things that you're doing. And I mean, obviously now I look like I held the crystal ball when theater has basically shut down and real estate's been going hog wild. But it was just always a secondary passion of mine, was being involved in real estate. And so, I basically not quit. I stepped away from theater in 2009 and went full-time into real estate and never really wanted to do anything besides that since. And now it's just a situation where my business has evolved and grown from, buying duplexes and triplexes and doing a lot of renovations myself and learning the hard way through a lot of things to stepping back and really managing the business now and building a larger portfolio with bigger properties and bigger numbers. And that's really been a shift for me over the last 12 to 18 months. That's been significant.
And a huge component of doing this is obviously having a team. I just by coincidence today, I posted onto my socials. If you want to go fast, do it alone. If you want to go big, and if you want to get somewhere, do it together. Meaning the power of delegation, the power of growing a team, the power of doing more relies upon the willingness, the skill, and the talent of those around you in the biggest ways possible. How has collaborating in building a team scaled you going from, renovating smaller properties to right now you're building apartment buildings and multifam sites? Tell me a little bit about how that team and how that's brought more opportunity.
Well, I just think that as one individual, you can only do so much. There's only so much time in your day. And I'm a little bit old school, I guess, if you want to call it that or whatever, or grew up in a working class family. And even still to this day, my dad is still working. I mean, he's almost 80 years old. He just turned 79 this year. And I kind of grew up in this mindset of like, if you want something in life, you have to go and work for it, which is amazing. It's a great skill set to have, but it also is detrimental in a way because, if you have that mindset, you feel like if there's something that needs to be done, you have to go out and do it. And then I started aligning myself with some people that were, ahead of me in the real estate investing space. You and Jazz were two of those people. And once I got connected with some people and I saw the potential of growing and scaling a business, what I realized is, you guys aren't in the trenches every single day. You've been there, but you've been scaling your business and growing it up and stepping back and managing those people and putting the right people in the right places. And once I figured that out, and once I figured out how to do it in my business, that was really a game changer for me. But to me, you surround yourself with good people who know what they're doing. And sometimes that takes a while, and that's something that I've struggled with this year is hiring and not people not working out necessarily, but sometimes I'm sure you've heard this expression, you got to hire slowly and fire quickly. And then you just keep going till you find the right people. And once you find the right people, it allows you to step back and really look at things from an overall perspective and manage your business versus, working in your business. And that's a big difference.
So I think maybe that's where we're going to spend a few minutes, because Broker's Playbook is specifically the biggest audience is real estate and mortgage brokers. So to my brothers and sisters who are in the trenches every day, and we just spoke about being in the trenches and the difference between working on your business or in your business. That's exactly what we're referring to. Working in your business, meaning you're on the trenches, you're in the trenches. Working on your business is finding ways to scale it. And what we're referring to, or what I can speak to from my experience, is until you can get over the fact that you think you are the best at everything, and unless you do it, it won't be done, because it's not true. No. But until you are ready to live that, you will be stuck in the trenches. And that's the difference between winning a battle and winning the war. So by yourself, you will win every battle because you're great at it. All of us are great at something. And if we put enough energy and sweat and money behind something, we're going to win. But that's a battle, not the war. So for us to remove ourselves from being inside the forest, to be able to see, somebody has to stand on the hill and give instruction. There's a reason the highest ranking military officer sits at the hill, is because he's been in the trenches long enough to know what happens there. He respects the process. And at this point, he's the best guy to say, you need to flank to the left, you need to go straight, marching straight into, whatever the case may be. In our situation, in our organization, it was no different. And it took me 9 years for some, 11 years for others, 14 years and me being almost burnt out to the point where I was going to throw in the towel before I could wake up and smell the coffee. The time did come where it took me a very long time to hire somebody, but I found the right person. And when I found the right person, I've scaled almost 400% in about 400% less time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key. Yeah.
And that's the key. Tell me, Darren, where have you seen the biggest impact from? You are a deal creator. And the difference between a deal maker and a deal creator is one person finds the deals. I'm a deal maker. I'm going to find and introduce properties. A deal creator takes matters into his own hands, knocks on doors, puts vendors and investors together in a room, bangs things out. Tell me a little bit about how you have created your last two deals. What did those deal structures look like?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things that we started to see, and I met a person, Alona is her name. She's my business partner with Ready Developments. I met her in the spring of last year, right around the start of the pandemic. And she was relatively new to, active real estate investing. I would say she does a lot of passive pre-con, all that kind of stuff that you guys do a ton of, which has been a great investing model for her. And she was more interested in getting into the active side of, creating opportunities. And so we started to look at opportunities in Toronto. That's where we predominantly work now. And what we were realizing was we weren't thinking big enough, right? So I was looking at $1 million properties. Well, guess who else is looking at $1 million properties? Every single buyer in the Toronto market, right? And so, because I was so used to this duplex triplex mindset, right? How do I turn this into a duplex triplex? Maybe if I'm lucky, I can convert it to a duplex triplex and get a laneway suite in the back. So I got 4 units, which was the last sort of transaction that I did. But what I realized was maybe I wasn't thinking big enough. So when we started to go, what's the next price point? What does the next jump look like? Well, the next jump looked like, 40 by 150 lots or 40 by 200 lots, and in better, more established neighborhoods, closer to transit. But what was the price point jump? Well, it was a price point jump of like from 1 million to 2 million, right? And what I realized was, well, in those properties, because they're bigger lots, we have an opportunity to build bigger properties. And because we can build bigger properties, because your zoning is basically based on your lot size, right? So if your lot size is bigger, you can build a bigger house. Makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. So instead of going for the duplex and triplex, I'm looking at a property on a 50 by 200 lot saying, you know what, we can build 6,000, 6,500, 7,000 square feet here without going through a lot of variances. And then when I start to do the math very quickly, I'm like, well, that's 3 stories. We can go above grade. So now we're looking at 4 floors of residential living space, 7,000 square feet. We can do 8 apartments in there, right? We can do 8 units at 700, 800 square foot per unit, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom. So now that $2 million price point actually makes way more sense than buying the $1 million triplex. Because
so please break that down for me, because I think it's important for a real estate broker and a mortgage broker on the finance side to understand the value that $1 million more opened up potentially 4 to 6 doors additionally.
Yep.
Both the revenue necessary to get the commercial financing done by one of the brokers, and the price per door has been slashed almost in half.
Well, it also eliminated 80% of my competition. And that was the big deal, right? So I'm not competing with the first-time home buyers. I'm not even really competing with anybody else, really, because there's not a lot of people in this space. The developers, it's too small for them, right? The homeowners, way too big for them. Unless they're looking for a $2 million property, well, guess what? We're not going to be competing on the same kind of property very rarely, right? So it eliminated the competition for one. And then to your point, we've actually found this kind of niche where we're buying residential properties. A lot of times they were singles or duplexes. So we're getting residential financing on the front side, which, as you know, is much less expensive, and we can go higher loan to value. And then we're converting to an 8-unit apartment building. Well, then on the takeout financing, 12 or 18 months after we've done our renovation, now we're into commercial financing. And so, you kind of have to look at that in a layered effect. And that's why it became this model that we really liked, because it's like we get to buy it with relatively inexpensive financing on the front end, do our renovation, convert to a commercial building, and then refinance under commercial financing, which now, because of that large purchase price, we're not looking at personally having to qualify, because now the building has to qualify instead of us. And so it was this model that kind of just all the bells went off, and I was like, this is the one that's going to make sense, right?
And just to take that a step further, so and this is why people have to really, really study and meet people and network. Because as a commercial, I'm a commercial broker, but the majority of people are not. The majority of people, it's 9-to-1 residential brokers to commercial brokers. So it's not common knowledge to a residential broker that they can refinance and qualify for CMHC financing. And that's, I think, something that we need to talk about. What you just described from a deal structure is that you found a niche and a hole in the marketplace. The Toronto market being white hot and then one of the most competitive on the planet, let alone the country. You found an opportunity to not compete, meaning you found a price point and a type of property that is too small for the big guys, too big for the end user, and just right on the right strategy for you. So you have to reverse engineer and create this. You found and exploited a hole in the market. And what we're doing right now is it's actually impossible to steal hurt you by doing this out there. So it's not like we're giving away the recipe for you to get hurt. We're giving you the recipe because we're hoping that it inspires people to look at deals differently, to create deals.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we're literally finding the $2.5 million, let's call it Hyde Park old manor. Think of those old big manors that were either rooming houses, or there's a couple that are 90 years old on their last foot, still living in their original home. Well, the estate, the kids, they all went off to school, have their own lives. They're not keeping the property. Nobody's moving in. It's going to be sold.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be insensitive. We're talking about life, everyday life here.
Yep.
So these properties come up. Those properties require, if you're going to be an end user, they require $1 million plus to renovate to make it a real home again.
Correct.
If you're going to make it into an apartment building, you're not competing with anyone because there's only 4 or 5 they can take on a small project with thin margins.
Mm-hmm.
But Darren and his team, as Ready Developments, are a lean, mean little machine, meaning they don't have a big overhead. But let's be real about it.
For sure.
You don't have ongoing staff with offices. You're running lean. You're going from site to site, making a very specific plan, looking for properties that are not going to keep you 3 years in the planning process, but rather with just a few variances, you can achieve the density that you're looking for.
Yep.
And you just turned what would be residential with residential financing at 1.5% into a commercial opportunity that can be refinanced, all financing taken out. Within another 12 months, the property will be fully leased out and/or what we call stabilized.
Yep.
It will meet all the CMHC criteria. So the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation offers commercial financing for multifamily if the property is in great condition, meaning you can't be a slumlord and get cheap financing.
Yep.
But if we're rebuilding an opportunity to brand new units and we've converted it and we've done all the beautiful capital expenditures to make this a real attractive property, you're going to achieve 40-year amortization at the cheapest rate, even cheaper than residential financing. And people don't know about this.
And we can go 85% loan to value. And if we want to go crazy and go affordable housing, we can go 95% loan to value.
And this is where, again, this is where podcasts, this is where networking comes in. Because unless we're having this conversation and we decide to share it, nobody would know. So
I had no idea about the CMHC financing until I started going down this path. And somebody pulled me aside and said, "Oh, this will qualify for CMHC." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I didn't know CMHC did, commercial financing. And then somebody explained to me, I was like, "Well, that changes everything."
Everything.
Because instead of leaving $1 million on the table, at the end of the deal, I can most likely pay my investors back the majority of their money on the 12 or 18 month takeout financing after the renovation and the stabilization, which is a big game changer.
And this is where the magic comes in. And as people grow and as their networks grow, it makes a difference. The biggest part of this all is if you know the value that you can achieve, and only experience can teach that. I don't recommend to anybody to go in blind because they're excited because they heard this podcast. What this podcast is meant to do is to open your eyes that there are more ways of doing it, that there are people out there that have found their niches, and they are definitely out there working the deal, creating the deal, exploiting the niche. And there are ways for you to get involved. What I would ask any broker, any investor, any mortgage broker watching this is definitely reach out to Community Brokers Playbook. Google Ready Developments. It's REDI, Ready Developments. You're on every social media platform. Google Darren Voros. Reach out. Ask questions. Ask, how can I bring myself or my client into your next deal? What criteria of properties do you like? Because I can bring you properties. Can I stay in the deal if I introduce a property?
Yep.
And the answer is always, of course, if it makes sense.
Yep. And I have, many agents reaching out and asking, how can we be top of your list, top of mind to be working on your next transaction? And I say, it's really simple, find me an opportunity. And I'll even explain exactly what we need, because the zoning in Toronto is really specific, and it's great. Toronto has great zoning, for this exact kind of thing. The majority of the city falls under an R zone, right? Now there's different kinds of R zones. There's R1 and there's RM, there's RD, there's all these. So I say, if it has any letter after R, it's not for us, right? Because R zoning is the one
or before, for that matter, like CO.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's simply R zoning, you can do a single family dwelling, a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, or an apartment building. The zoning is there. Whether you meet all the criteria for that zone is something a little bit different. But this is such a simple thing, and I can't even tell you how many times, Simeon, people have sent me projects after I've had this conversation. They send me something in an RM zone. I'm like, you just took 5-10 minutes out of my day for me to look at the listing, where I gave you a very simple direction and said, it has to be R zoning. And they find a big lot, so they have the lot dimensions, right? They're like, okay, it's a 50 by 200 lot, but it doesn't matter if I can only build a duplex or triplex on there, right? So I think that's one thing that, if somebody's giving you an opportunity to step into their team or step into a part of their opportunity, seize that opportunity, to your point earlier, and really knock it out of the park. Do that extra all that person had to do was go on the Toronto interactive zoning map, search the address, find the zoning code, and be like, this one doesn't work, I'm not even going to send it to them, right? And it's just that little bit of extra effort that I think really separates the elite in this business from people that struggle to maybe, find their next opportunity or find their next client. And I think that's a big differentiator.
Well, I think what you're referring to, and just to be crystal clear about it, as brokers, we need to focus on delivering a better value proposition every day, and to really listen to the client, because you are not only an industry insider, meaning you're a brother in the business because you create real estate that we can then lease, buy, sell, and invest in. But you're also somebody who can give advice as an entrepreneur and business owner, saying, like, to every agent out there, I want to work with you, but listen to me and don't waste my time.
Mm-hmm. And not that I think that I am more important than anybody else.
No.
Like, I would expect the same thing of me going the other way around. If I went around to every single brokerage in the city and said, I'm interested in working together, I'd just be wasting people's time, right? And so that I think time is such a commodity, and you mentioned it right off the top. And so, if you want to be a part of a really cool transaction, and it's something that you're looking to break into, just save somebody a little bit of time, and I'll tell you what, they'll be forever indebted to you.
So tell me, how what kind of opportunities is Ready Developments looking for? What is the future? What do you see in your next 6 months, in your next 2 years, in your next 5 years?
Well, I think one thing that Ilona and I realized is we love development. We love building, right? I looked at the multifamily space, the value add apartment buildings, existing stock. It just, it just doesn't excite me as much, to be honest. And I think that I really found my niche in development. So we're just looking to go bigger. We have a property under contract, a piece of land in Barrie that we're doing 44 condos on. So we're looking to take possession of that early this year, or early next year, probably, maybe late this year if everything goes well. We're buying it with zoning approval. So that's basically what we're waiting on. And I think, we're just looking for more projects like that. We would love to do, 20, 30 townhouse development. And that's kind of what we've got our eyes on right now, is that, like, probably 20 to 50 units, whether it's townhouses, condos, land assembly, something like that. That's really exactly the niche that we want to be in. And we're just looking at all opportunities in, I'd say, Southern Ontario right now, within a probably 3-hour drive of Toronto.
That's awesome. My question to you would be, and obviously you must raise capital through your network in order to acquire these properties, to carry, to plan, to develop. Where does one start? If they're I'm a real estate broker. I personally know you, and I know how I would be involved in a project.
Yeah.
But to those who don't, give me a little bit of the front side of Ready Developments when you're saying you're looking for sites for 20 to 50 unit projects. Well,
Mhm.
that's going to cost between, let's call it 5 to 10 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get a project for 5 or 10 million, you're going to require 30 to 40% capital, which is 3 to 4 million. Where does that money come from? How can people get involved in the next project?
Yeah, we work with investors in our communities, and that's something that we're building our network every single day. And my business partner Alona, that's her main role and responsibility. I'm more on the construction side, so she deals with a lot more of the financing, and not the financing, sorry, the raising capital element. But let's be honest, we're a lean, mean fighting machine, or whatever you called us earlier. So we're both involved in all elements of the business. But really, the biggest thing is because of the securities rules and regulations in Ontario. Our investors have to fall under one of the exemptions, which is they have to be accredited investors. They have to be friends and family or close business associates. There are some other exemptions that we can work under, but those are the big three. And so that's one of the first questions we ask when people approach us about investing with us. We say, are you an accredited investor? And for people that aren't familiar with the accredited investor criteria, it's pretty simple. Do you have $1 million of net assets? Unfortunately, you can't use your principal residence in that $1 million. Or do you make over $200,000 as an individual, or $300,000 as a couple? Or do you have $5 million of gross assets? So those are kind of the big four criteria. And if you meet any one of those, it only has to be one of those four things. And if you meet any of those, then the Securities Commission says you have the wherewithal that you can invest in these kinds of transactions. And then we have to do all kinds of other paperwork alongside of that. But that's basically the initial conversation: is what are your goals? Do they align with our goals? And are you an accredited investor? And if you are, then we obviously start to go through some of the numbers and the timelines and all those things, and just go down the road a little bit further.
So I think it's important for our audience to understand a little bit, to have maybe a little bit of a deeper understanding. The reason securities is involved, it's not because this is a bank. It's because when we raise capital on the street, there are mechanisms and procedures in place to protect the consumer. Just like RICO is there to protect buyers and sellers in real estate. When you're raising capital and more than you and your brother or you and your family are involved, you are now getting in the realm of the government needs to protect its citizens from wrongdoing, because not everybody has your track record, Darren, or your integrity or your know-how. There are people who, whether they are evil or they are nice, there's going to be your nice guy with no experience, and there's going to be the guy with experience that's a real piece of work that's looking to profit off other people's hard lifelong savings.
Yeah.
And because nobody knows the difference, because we all look the same and we all act the same, unless somebody has a track record, you don't know. And the mechanism that we're talking about here is a limited partnership and a general partnership structure, which is typically referred to as an LPGP structure. So Ready Development is going to be the working partner, the GP, and the limited partnership is made up of the investors, typically.
Correct. Yep.
So what happens is very simple. Yourself or your clients, should they be eligible to invest in the project based on the Ontario Securities Commission's criteria, which is there to protect all parties involved. If somebody who's not eligible comes in and within months starts screaming, "Give me my money back because this wasn't right for me," there's a problem there too on our side.
Exactly.
So these structures are there for a reason. And basically, the LP is going to have a percentage of the profit. The GP is going to have a percentage of the profit. Typically, one offsets the other with protections and who gets paid first in the case of what. So what's literally called an offering memorandum. is produced, everybody understands the risks of development and of a project, and all people move confidently into a project and hopefully exit a project profitably and walk into the sunset comfortably and do it again.
Yep.
So I think it's important as a broker that you do understand the various ways people can invest in real estate other than just buying the bricks and mortar. And this is a very, I would say, commonplace theme at this time of investing in real estate and becoming ever more popular every day. So I think as real estate and mortgage brokers, we need to understand that this is happening. People have options, and we should not be shy to introduce our clients and us into structures that we trust and that can be profitable, because your clients will look at you as a resource and someone who cares for them above and beyond just a transaction.
Well, and I think there's another layer to that, and I'm sure you see it every day in your business, is that I have a lot of people that approach me and say they want to get into real estate investing because for the last little while, I've been running like a one-on-one coaching program. And the first question I ask them is like, well, why do you want to get into real estate investing? And there might be brokers out there that are having this exact conversation with clients. They're thinking, I got to go out and buy a rental property in Toronto. Why? Okay. Do you really want to be a landlord? Because I guarantee the answer to that question 90% of the time is no, right? So,
No.
right? And then the next question is, okay, well then what is it you want to get into the real estate market for? Well, I want to, capitalize on, the appreciation of the Toronto market. Okay, well that I understand. And I'm hoping to make, some cash flow. Okay, great. I get that. Well, do you know that you can do all those things without actually having to be in control of anything? You can sit back and make 15 to 20% annualized return on your money without having to do any of it. And I think when people understand that and they understand the benefits of a limited partnership structure in its name, it's a limited liability, right? Then when they understand this, they simply just switch over and say, you know what, I'd rather just do that. I can invest maybe a smaller amount of time and money in a deal. And I can diversify my portfolio with multiple development projects. And people really start to gravitate more towards this sort of passive investing versus the active getting involved in the actual transaction. Right?
I think a big component for Darren comes in where the broker typically would feel that they're going to lose their client's ability for them to do a transaction by putting them into something like this. And that's simply not true. So true to the fact that that's their thought, but not true in the fact that if your client goes into a deal that you bring him into, you can be compensated to a specific portion of it if there's enough economics there. But more importantly, by delivering your client a win in real estate and real estate investing, enables you to become a trusted partner to the client. And if you are at the point of your career where you still count transactions as opposed to looking at your client's lifetime value to you as a client, that's a different problem altogether. Because there has to be a point in your career, and I mean, it's going to be different for everyone. And I'm not saying that it's not just a mindset thing, it's also an experience thing. Meaning that at some point you have to stop thinking that everybody is a dollar. You have to. And it's going to take time, because we were all of us began somewhere. None of us were born with doing 600 transactions a year or making the obscene money some people make in a successful practice by not delivering value. You have to deliver value. Yep. So those first few years in real estate where you're doing your 6 deals, your 10 deals, your 20 deals a year, you're doing so because people are referring you, because you did a great job. Well, the natural escalation, the natural path to grow as a broker is to bring more value and bring other people in. And what I mean by that is if I were to bring you a client today, Darren, that brings in $1 million, enables you to get your next project done, whether I was able to get compensated or not, my client is going to win big. You are now having a project. The likelihood of me not getting the listing of your exit, the tenants inside the project, your trust and appreciation and natural reciprocity brewing grows exponentially. If I deliver a win to you, not to say that it's expected, but you do it once, you do it twice, unless you are a sociopath or the biggest dick on the planet, you're going to get me a coffee. You're going to try to get me a client. You're going to try to deliver something back. Are you not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is where I go with, it's not about just the transaction. If I bring you a client and you bring me in and I meet 8 more investors, that all of them are in this, the likelihood of them being investors outside of this deal structure is probably 99.9%. This would not be their first investment.
And here's another piece to that, Simeon, which I think is something where you guys lead with education so much, which is why you are as successful as you are, because you're just constantly giving back to people. And that's always been my mandate as well, is like, how do we provide value for people? Because they truly see that ability that you're giving and they want to work with you, right? So imagine a broker out there says, well, do you have any RRSP funds, right? And somebody says, yeah, I got $100,000 sitting in my RRSPs, but I can't use that in real estate, right? Because I've already have my first time home buyers, whatever. And you say, well, have you ever thought about investing in a land development deal? Because you can do that with your RRSPs. Right there, I guarantee 90% of the people out there have no idea they can invest their RRSPs in a land development deal, right? So you're not even taking away an opportunity. Imagine the value that somebody brings there and says, yeah, you can invest $100,000 in a land development deal in your RRSPs and make 15-20%. Not saying that it's guaranteed, but if that's the ability, and they make that 15 or 20%, they're going to go back to that same broker and want to buy 2 or 3 transactions from them, just because they give them that additional bit of knowledge that they may not have had, that their financial advisor is not going to tell them about,
of course,
right?
Because they will really be taking the food off their plate.
Exactly, right? So I think there is something that, people that if they want to diversify, they want to look at all these different ways, because real estate investing there's so many opportunities that people aren't even aware that are available to them. So I think that it's just about leading with that education, and then, like you say, just waiting for the opportunity to provide reciprocity and the opportunity to give to somebody. You'll eventually get it back. Don't worry about it.
I love that very much. I think what I want to do is I literally want to summarize what we just discussed, and I want to close off. There's 2 things I want to bring up. Do you believe there is great value for any of our brothers and sisters in the business to explore your coaching program and understand this side of the business?
Well, here's the reality of my coaching program. I'm winding it down because it's just we've talked about it a lot today. It's timing. It's too much one-on-one time. I'm switching to a group coaching program in the fall of this year. So absolutely, I'll have information on my website. We just ran a course actually through Ready Developments on this exact apartment conversion. We'd love to do that. We're going to do that live in the fall of this year. We did it virtually, and we did some site visits. We actually walked people through our construction sites, which they thought was incredible. So those 2 things are definitely going to be available, but the one-on-one coaching is going to be winding down for me. So yeah, absolutely. I would love if anybody's interested to reach out, and I can walk you through and talk you through what I offer. Yeah.
So I think we can add to that. If we're going to be doing some lives, we do have the ability to do Instagram and LinkedIn live at this time. Maybe what we can do is we can invite our audience to participate and watch on a live where we can walk through a property and take a Q&A live as well.
Mm-hmm.
From a broker's playbook perspective, we always try to deliver some practical, tactical, and real advice that people can implement in their business today. And I think above and beyond the networking that I always promote, leading with education, meaning that you as a broker are responsible for knowing more, for never ending your knowledge path and delivering value. I think, Darren, I want you to give direct advice to our broker audience on how they can coach their clients to use registered funds to get into some of these deals.
Yeah, I mean, registered funds, like I say, are something that a lot of individuals are just not aware of what their possibilities are. And so,
and it's not in competition for real estate because they can't buy real estate with it. They can invest in real estate with it.
yeah, I mean, you can, but the rules are so, detrimental that you might as well buy it with cash, right? You can buy it in your personal name, but, it just doesn't make sense. Where you really get the true benefits of RSP investing is in what we call an arm's length transaction. So Sammy and I lend you my RSP funds for something that you're doing while we're not related by blood or marriage or anything like that. So you're now arm's length from me, and now you can use my registered funds. And that's where we truly see the benefit of being able to capitalize on that. So that's a real game changer for most people. And especially when you get inside of a TFSA now, which, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a tax-free savings account. Well, you can use that to invest in real estate too. And imagine using those kinds of returns and there's no tax to be paid on it. That's really truly the benefit of those two products. And if you can capitalize on that and start to really get those funds working for you, you'll see things start to really change very quickly.
So I'm going to cap this off to my brothers and sisters in the business. You need to Google alternative real estate investments. You need to Google using your RSP in limited partnership LPGP structures. Google it. There's a million links out there. This is Ontario specific. This is Canada specific. The US has much different regulation. In some states easier, in some states harder. But in Canada, it's 90% the same other than Quebec.
Yeah.
So you're literally able to invest in real estate. Your clients are able to invest in real estate using their RSPs, where you as a broker can add tremendous value to their wealth creation, where you as a broker are going to benefit from getting back all that trust, all that loyalty, all those networks, and grow and scale your business, your mindset, and your experience. Mr. Darren Voros, once again, shoot me quickly or share with our audience where they can find you online before we wrap up.
Yeah, my website, darrenvoros.com, 2 R's in my first name, 1 R in my last name. On YouTube, my YouTube channel has actually quite a bit of content on the RSP investing, so check that out. And then Ready Developments is our website for REDI is how we spell Ready, and readydevelopments.ca. Any one of those, you'll find me for sure.
Darren, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insight, your friendship, and camaraderie. I look forward to many deals together. I look forward to more interviews where we pass your insight and knowledge, and we do the best we can to give back to an industry and to people who gave us so much. So I wish you continued success and all the best deals out there, my man. I appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure, Simeon, and it always is. So thanks for having me.
To my brothers and sisters, again, thank you for being here and choosing to spend your time with Brokers Playbook. If this podcast did resonate with you, please shoot us some feedback. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to Darren directly, to myself directly, through community@brokersplaybook.com or any of my personal socials. Across the board, I'm at SPapaIlias, SPAPAILIAS. I'll see you guys all soon. Ciao.